How's it going, Twitch? My name is Skull, and on behalf of East Asia Soft, welcome to today's stream. Today, I am continuing my playthrough of The Letter, out now physically for you to buy through Play Asia for Nintendo Switch. So yeah, there's so if you want the chance of owning this game physically, head over to Play Asia and buy your copy. While I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and let you know as well that there are only a few copies of the limited edition left. We've got only a few limited editions left of The Letter, Love Esquire, Smashing the Battle, Trigger Witch, and Empire of Angels 4. So if you want any of the LEs, which I highly recommend because there's a lot of cool extra goodies for collectors, then get them while you can, because once they're gone forever. They are limited print games. There's still plenty of the standard edition though, but trust me, the limited edition, totally worth it. And on a personal note, I hope to continue this next Sunday. I do not know if I will be able to, but my hope is that I will, and I think so, but I'm not sure. And the reason for that is because this Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, I am going to be moving across the country. So I'm going to be doing today's stream, streaming The Letter, and then I'll be doing Tuesday's stream. I don't know what I'll be playing. I hope that I get to finish Wife Quest, but I just don't know yet. And then after that, I'm going to be moving. I will be leaving this house. This room, you can see a whole lot of the background is full of boxes, and my blackout curtains are gone, and I've been busy packing up. So, I will be streaming Tuesday, and then I'm going to pack up my setup and move. Which means there will not be a stream Friday, but my hope is that I'll be moved in at least enough to stream next Sunday, a week from today. That's my hope, that's my plan. We will have to see, though. I cannot make any promises. With that out of the way, we are playing through The Letter. And if you have missed any of the parts up until now, I highly recommend you head over to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/EastAsiaSoft and get yourselves all caught up. Although if you'd prefer to play this for yourselves, I totally accept that. We are faced with a dilemma. Do we go ahead and go out with Luke Wright, only because Kylie asked nicely? Who are we to say no to this cute little girl who's just sunshine and rainbows? Or do we say I have other things to do and potentially make Kylie cry? Now, I really don't want to make Kylie cry, but you know what's more important than not making Kylie cry? Not going out with Idiot Face. So I have other things to do. Though when you look at it closely, it isn't such a difficult decision to make. First and foremost, no matter where I look at this, it is inappropriate to some degree. Disregarding Luke's honest intentions, I've only known the man for a grand total of 2 days, including today. If I'm going to be thoroughly specific, I'll give it a grand total of around 10 hours. By all means, that's not enough reason for me to join them for dinner, even if he says Kylie's the one who requested it. The two other people, it won't appear as innocent as he makes it out to be, and if there's one ugly thing about this city, it's this place's penchant for inane gossip. One little spark, it'll spread like wildfire. Who knows how far it'll go? How many years it'll reach? What if Ashton hears about it? I'd rather not think about the consequences to that. I've got enough on my plate lately as it is. Being at the center of a rumor mill, along with this man, in whatever form it takes, sends unpleasant chills down my spine. By the way, I found out today that this game originally released in 2017, so happy 5th birthday to this game. It originally released on mobile, now it's on consoles ported by EAS. My answer must have already shown in my face as Kylie's smile immediately dissolves into a pout.
You're not gonna join us, are you?
I'm sorry, Kylie. I'd love to, but I have other things to do. Another time, maybe? A friend just texted me about something urgent, and he wants to meet tonight.
Just say it's a date, Daisy. The little rugrat will understand. She's not an infant. No need for blatant lies.
Heat instantly crawls up my face at his baseless insinuations. Oh, what I would give for another chance to put a real dent on his skull.
What even gave you that idea?
Oh, she's blushing though.
And even if it is, why do you care? Stop sticking your nose in other people's affairs.
Oh, your face says it all, woman. You think I won't recognize those longing looks?
There isn't a look, There isn't a look, all right?
Sure, whatever helps you sleep at night, Daisy.
You already have a story written inside that head of yours, don't you?
Oh, please. It's not that interesting. The color of your face does suit you, though. Matches the hair. Well, come on now, Munchkin. I'll just buy you an extra glass of that parfait.
With extra strawberries?
I'll get you a basket full if you want. As long as you behave. And no complaints if they don't have enough syrup again.
Well, at least Kylie's going to live through this just fine.
Deal?
Deal. Have fun with your date, Miss Pink.
Luke's already leading the child away before I can correct her. Upon reaching the end of the hall, however, he doesn't miss the chance to shoot me another one of those infuriating winks. Does he really think women enjoy those? I'd sue him for harassment if I can. Though I must admit, the two of them walking together hand in hand is an endearing sight in itself. He says he dislikes the idea of having children of his own, but it's easy to see some part of him genuinely wants them. What's stopping him? It's something to mull over, along with every other confusing and frustrating thing about this guy. Some other time, though. Ashton's waiting. His car's headlights have been left turned on, illuminating the otherwise empty parking lot. If it's like that, this is probably going to be a quick visit. Although our landlady would probably have a few hundred words to say about this before letting it go. Not many in this complex own a vehicle anyway to warrant the space's frequent use, owing to this area's proximity to downtown Luxburn. No one's going to be disturbed if one car stays parked with its lights on for a few minutes. Right now, though, it serves as a pleasant company while I idle inside my own car, thumbing the invitation's fine print, flipping it over and over until the motions become familiar enough. What should I say? Oh! It shows the year is 2016. I don't know how well that shows up on you guys' devices, but I can see it very clearly. October 28, 2016. How should I say it? There's a very high chance he'll say no, but on the off chance he accepts, what should I do? Fears. Doubts. Questions I haven't asked before, and more often than not, the anxiety is because of him. 17 years ago, I've been in the same position, a different letter in hand. Somehow, nothing has changed. Perhaps if he'd noticed how I felt about him years ago, I wouldn't be in this predicament. Honestly, he managed to ace all those exams at school without even lifting a finger, and he couldn't figure this out.
How dense can he get?
But I can't very well wait for another 2 decades just for something as measly as an invitation, can I? It's not like it's going to be a date. Although, frankly, I wouldn't mind if it is. However, that's a wish best reserved for some other time. I won't go anywhere if I just keep thinking about the what-ifs. Gathering all my thoughts and courage, I step out of my car and gingerly make my way upstairs, invitation in hand. Ever since the incident 3 days ago, there's a strange air permeating the atmosphere here. Weighted, but the sort that slowly trickles through you until the burden of it finally bogs you down with some kind of disquiet. The days since have been uneasy, and Isabella's absence from her flat does not help settle it. Every day, coming home somewhat feels like an uphill battle in itself, leaving you spent when you're supposed to be getting some rest. Is Zachary experiencing the same thing? I certainly am. The same weary slump is also on Ashton's shoulders once I catch a glimpse of him. He's leaning casually on the rails, his back against its metal surface, while reading through a bunch of papers. Each one appears more important than the other, despite me having never read a letter of it. He'll probably head back to the precinct after this if he's not going to drop by Zachary's for a bit of shut-eye. No rest for the wicked. But no matter how occupied he seems, he pauses anyway and looks up from his work the moment he hears my treads. He raises a hand in greeting as a small smile spreads across his lips. Exhausted as I am, I can't help but return it to him.
What brought you here?
He hums something inaudible, neither an answer nor even a vague hint, before he turns his attention back to the papers. For a passing second, I thought he'd ignore or evade the question, like every single time I've asked. But then he shuffles the documents back to a binder and sets it aside with a huff, its sound more fatigued than I've ever heard from him recently. Either there's simply too many things keeping him busy at once, or his investigation isn't going too well. Maybe even both.
Just work.
Just work? Do you expect me to believe that?
In a way, I didn't think an important contact ditched me and now I'm stuck would make for a cool alibi. Did it work?
As if there's going to be any difference. You're still a dafty. Anyway, do you want to come in? But if you're going to hang around for a bit, you better turn those headlights off. My landlady's one hairline away from banning you off this place, you know? Stop taking the piss out of her. She's a nice woman.
When she stops taking the piss out of Shirley, maybe I will.
You and your bloody car.
Yeah, he named his car Shirley. The first time I've heard of the name, I did a double take. From the way he put it, it was as if he was talking about some woman he met somewhere, surprisingly got along with, and grown fond of. Never mind how impossible that is, knowing his lack of interest for people outside our small circle. Honestly, it sent a surge of panic in me. It lasted for days, until he proudly introduced me to his new car. His car!
Hey, it's a nice name. Don't laugh at it. You'll hurt her feelings.
Oh no.
I'm gonna have to give that offer a pass, though.
Nothing unexpected, but admittedly, I'm hoping he'll stay for a few minutes. Suddenly asking him to accompany me to some housewarming party is starting to turn into a bad idea. If he can't even be bothered to spare a second of his time to his friends, what more if he has to stand some hours in a room full of strangers?
I need to get going. I just dropped in to check on something and...
His words trail off, cut mid-sentence on purpose, leaving it for me to comprehend the rest of it. At the same time, his eyes shift, momentarily, towards the door closest to us. Isabella's unit. Eerily quiet now in her absence. The instant his lips curve into a small frown and his shoulders tense, I know work is far from his reasons for being here. Being all too aware of that idea alone summons another dull ache straight into my chest. Like every time, every single moment, he affords her the attention he can never seem to spare others. While it is a worry better left for a different situation, it twinges the heart nevertheless.
Is there a problem?
Nothing of note. Abigail just wanted to ask her a few things. It's related to that incident with Cooper. You heard the one.
Hold on. She isn't in trouble, is she?
No, I don't think so. Not as far as I know. And do you really think Scaredy Cat can do anything like that? It's just an off-the-record thing, okay? Abigail wanted to confirm something. She knows I'm friends with someone working at BRC, so she asked me. Apparently she isn't getting anything from that company, as long as the red tape's in the way. It's nothing urgent, though. She isn't answering her phone again, so I thought I'd check myself. I can wait until she gets home.
If she comes home soon. The last time I saw her was 2 nights ago.
His demeanor immediately changes. Despite his careful attempt to appear nonchalant, his eyes scream of an unspoken worry. It's almost painful to see how much he tries to hide it, especially in front of someone he has known for years.
What? Did she take a vacation or something?
No word from her, unfortunately. And I don't think she'll go on a trip without telling us. It's been 2 days. 3 if she's not going to show up tomorrow either. Do you think we might have to file a missing person report?
I hope not. Even Zach's not acting like himself already. I wonder what that guy ate. But let me know if anything happens. You know how to contact me. I'll see you later, Becca.
Ashton squeezes my shoulder light as he can before stepping away and heading straight for the stairs. His way of offering comfort in the middle of this little mess we found ourselves in. But amidst all of this, a tiny voice at the back of my mind nudges at a memory. Something I've forgotten, and the very reason why I've chosen to return home early. He's made it 4 steps down when realization kicks in, and awareness of the envelope I've been holding returns to me. Panic rears before proper words can form, or I can think about the situation. Not a second sooner, I'm calling after him.
Ashton, wait!
He halts, 1 foot already down another step, when he turns to me, raising an eyebrow in question.
Yeah?
And of all times, it is this moment when I falter. The adrenaline from earlier's panic suddenly recedes. All of a sudden, none of the things I've prepared to say will take form, and I've caught between simply forgetting about this or just blurting it out to him while hoping for the best. Should I even? Oh, we know. There's nothing wrong with trying, I suppose. I'm not even going to lose anything if he says no. Which, frankly, has a very high chance of happening than the opposite. Though the thought still doesn't prevent heat from crawling up my face and send my heart racing. It's better to get this over with before my throat closes up and I lose my nerve.
Tomorrow afternoon. Do you have time?
Achievement unlocked, 1 step closer. A small frown is already on his face. I can already see where this is going and what he's thinking from that alone. Yet, for some mullish reason, I continue, hanging on to that tiny glimmer of hope he'll say yes if I present an argument good enough for him.
That depends. Why?
Well, you see, someone sent an invite for a housewarming party, and I thought you might want to...
Rebecca, I'd rather stand on the messy end of a gunshot. You know that.
Talk about blunt.
I know, it's just... You're one of the few people I can count on with things like this.
That's cool. I appreciate the thought. But really, Zach's a better companion. Gatherings like that just aren't my cup of tea.
It did cross my mind, you know. If he isn't busy with his freelance work, I'd probably ask him too. Actually, you two would have been spared if Isabella was here, but...
Why not just skip out on it? The world's not going to end if one guest doesn't show up.
Trust me, I'd love to. But I promised Mom I'll be there.
Still can't say no, huh?
Like you're any better. Besides, the person who sent this is an old friend of Mom and Dad. If it's important to them, why not? Though, who would have thought, huh? The famous Evans heir used to be tutored by my parents. Apparently, we also met before.
Wait, who?
Evans. Hannah Evans. Well, she's already married. She goes by Hannah Wright now. Remember the couple who bought the mansion Isabella's selling?
The same people?
As far as I know. Unless I misread their address, or there's another Hannah Wright in this city that we don't know about.
Let me see that.
Without waiting, he walks closer and takes the invitation off my hands, gently but with the same force of urgency in his voice. I don't know what he finds in it, but his eyebrows draw together as his eyes scan through the little lines of text printed on the small piece of paper. His hold on the envelope tightens with each pass, and by the time he has finished reading, his mouth has formed into a thin line.
You never mentioned this.
We met just once. Or at least, that's what Mum told me. Honestly, I can't recall anything from it. Otherwise, I would have told you about it.
He hums something inaudible under his breath, all while thumbing the paper, staring at it as if doing so will proffer him answers to every unspoken question in his head. When he gleams nothing from it, he merely folds the envelope back to its form.
All right, I'll go with you.
That was easy.
What?
I'll go with you. That shouldn't be a problem, right? Unless you've already made up your mind about asking Z-Man.
No, I told you already the guy's busy. Why would I bother him for this when I can go alone? But what about your own work and
I can make time for this. 3 o'clock, yeah? I'll pick you up an hour or so before.
My head reels, less from what this implies, more from how easy all this seems for him, how fast this turnaround is. He's already halfway down the stairs when any semblance of sense returns to me, and I can finally string 2 words of protest together. Yet all of it dies on my tongue at the small smile he shoots me. He disappears from view seconds later, his footsteps gradually fading as he descends the stairwell until all I can hear are my own shallow breaths and heartbeat, loud, pounding hard against my chest. It is only after I'm standing alone in my room, minutes later, that it sinks in. He has taken the invitation with him. But besides that, more than that, he has also accepted mine. Calling this happiness is a complete understatement. For now, looming thoughts of the mansion and that woman lay silent at the back of my head. The night wears on without further incident, despite the great number of thoughts swimming up inside my head. Come morning, there's only a hush, a strange sort of stillness, unlike the ones greeting me every morn. This one's uneasy, tight with anticipation, like a string stretched thin, merely waiting for the proper time to snap. Granted, it doesn't make my day any less pleasant, but the edge is there. And as expected, the second I step out of my flat, it comes apart, broken by the voices of 2 squabbling adults echoing from a floor below. The quiet was nice while it lasted. Shame.
What the hell were you thinking?
I wasn't. Ow! Could you let go?
Not a few seconds later, they both ascend the stairs, with Ashton pulling Isabella by her wrist. She struggles, as she should, but his hold on her remains firm. Freeing herself means having to draw blood as she attempts to pry his hand off with her other one, or using unnecessary force to push herself away. Neither of which is better than the other. One could potentially end in an accident, while the other means having to harm him physically. She has the good sense to realize that, at least. However, it doesn't take the desperate edge in her voice when she answers Ashton's temper with her own. So, on they go, none the wiser to my presence.
Do you have any idea how much trouble you could get in?
That's why I'm asking you for help.
Is this what you've been doing these past 3 days? Because this doesn't make your case convincing, Isabella.
Rose died, Ash.
I know. Every single person in Luxburg knows. It's on the damn news. But that doesn't mean...
People are missing. Some of those are my friends. And BRC's just covering it all up.
You can't just barge into my office and expect me to do anything about it, right off the bat. This isn't a children's game, Isabella. We have procedures. We have to follow protocol. There's red tape all over this case for a reason. We sure as hell don't investigate things just because some stupid letter spooked us.
Ash, you have to believe me this time. If we don't do anything right now, more people will...
It's been a whole week. This stupid letter prank is getting old real fast. I'm sick of it. It was funny the first time, not so much now.
You're the only one that can help me with this, Ash. Even Rebecca won't.
All right, you two are awfully loud. What's going on here?
Both of their heads snap up almost in unison. A displeased frown is on each of their faces, but this is a necessary interruption. What can they do? People still in their units have already taken interest on the commotion, with some taking a peek behind their curtains, while others are bold enough to creep open their doors, if only slightly. If they don't keep it down, pretty soon our landlady will show up. Getting a reprimand from her is the last thing I want to happen, first thing on a Friday morning, even if this is hardly my fault.
Well, if you want to continue this, you two better do it elsewhere. You're disturbing other people.
Don't worry, we're done here.
No, we aren't. Becca, I looked it up. I called them. I visited some of them, and...
Which you shouldn't have done in the first place. Isabella, you're going to create more problems for us with what you're doing. A team has already been assigned to it. Leave it to us.
Your precious team is looking at it the wrong way. Becca, it's not just Rose.
Sorry about
There
that, guys.
are others.
That last bit strikes a chord, prods strongly at a memory. At that vicious smile already etched deeply inside my mind. That image appears clear enough that at the mere mention of it, I stumble on my own question.
What do you mean?
The letter, Rebecca! It's not.
It's nothing. If there's really something going on because of that dumb letter, none of us would be standing here. We've all read it, haven't we? But Rebecca's alive, Zach's alive, I'm alive. So for the last time, this isn't a curse. There's a murderer on the loose, and your coworkers happen to be the victims. Give it a rest, Isabella. It's too early for this shit.
Don't you think that's too much for a coincidence?
Not so much. Most serial killers follow a pattern. I'll tell you about it some other time. And anyway, coincidence or not, the point is, civilians like you aren't supposed to get involved. You're putting yourself in danger.
I wasn't chasing after...
Will the both of you slow down and stop arguing for a minute?
The more this game goes, the more it seems like there's missing sound bites. I don't know if that's a bug or if that's like just the devs just forgetting to insert them at the right point, but yeah.
What's this about your coworkers, Belle?
Becca, please don't tell me now you believe this shit.
Sure, in a heartbeat, I'll agree with Ashton. That's how it has always been, besides having a very good point. Really, they're the very same ones he'll make every time I ask too many questions. But the fact of the matter is, what he wants to hear from me right now is far from what I've been seeing, sensing these past few days. It doesn't matter what Isabella or I believe on our own. Something odd has been happening around me, and that letter she picked up is at the heart of this. But however I respond to the question in their faces, only one of them will be pleased with it. Tell the truth. Ashton in particular won't be too happy to hear it. Imagining the look on his face doesn't take too much effort. His entire posture shifts the moment my reluctance shows. Shoulders tensing, brows furrowing, eyes gaining a sharp edge. He's already bracing himself from the disappointment. And it will be a disappointment. Not in a million years did I ever believe I'll be saying this either.
I might have seen her. The woman Belle's been telling us about. The one she said she saw in the attic.
Both of them stare at me like I've grown an extra head, and for a few moments Ashton looks like he's about to have a fit. A pause treads at its heels after, a silence thick enough one can almost hear a pin drop.
You're kidding, right?
Do I look like I'm joking?
Really, Becca? Not funny.
Ash, I'm not lying. Why would I lie about this?
I'm willing to bet he's seen the woman too, and he's just trying to be rational about it.
It's been this way since the film fest. The past few days have been really odd since we read that letter. Last night, you mentioned Zach hasn't been acting like himself. Maybe you should ask him too.
Or maybe you're all just feeling under the weather.
I'm not sick. Don't you think I'd know that by now?
Becca, you're starting to sound like Scaredy Cat. Give me a break.
Why don't you?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, you two.
Isabella's voice cuts sharply through the conversation, abruptly putting an end to the brewing argument.
It's all my fault. This is all my fault. I was only hoping I could fix this before any of you. I'm sorry for dragging you all into this.
She breathes in, deep, steadying, and in that moment, something falls behind her eyes as she looks away.
I'll fix this. I promise.
A quiet resolve. The same one I saw in her that night from 3 days ago. But this time, it burns brighter. Even Ashton wavers at its sight, when she looks him straight in the eyes, gaze unflinching. Gradually, his grip on her wrist loosens. Oh, yeah, he's still grabbing her.
Belle, there's nothing to fix. The problem is...
Just this once, Ash.
Her voice, though small and lacking any force, stops him. Along with it, every sound, every noise dies around us. A hush descending as if the world is waiting for her words.
You don't have to come with me. But if I don't do anything, I am going to regret it.
She lays a hand on top his. Gentle, pleading, almost intimate if one does not consider the circumstances we found ourselves in.
Please.
Ashton will never tell a soul, will never admit it even to himself, but it is in that short second that his own resolve breaks. The moment the hard edge in his eyes softens and he relinquishes his hold on her, letting his hand fall limply to his side. Wordlessly, Isabella steps back and runs off, leaving only a muttered thanks and a small, lackluster smile. Only after the last of her footsteps fade away does Ashton move, breaking the silence with one of his sharp exhales before reaching up to pinch the bridge of his nose in a gesture of frustration and surrender.
Did you really have to tell her that?
What do you want to hear from me then? That everything's fine?
No, I want all of you to stop putting these ideas in her head. None of it is helping. Never mind. Don't worry about her. I'll bring her back here.
He's already poised to leave when my own instinct takes over. I reach for him, gripping his elbow with the same unyielding grip, the action prompted by voices whispering at the back of my mind. He's already made it clear he's not going to believe me, but he deserves a word of caution. Who knows where all this will take us, how all this will end. He shouldn't be caught off guard, beliefs notwithstanding.
Ash, I know you don't believe in those things she's saying. And you know me. I'm less inclined to believe in those things as you do. But I've seen something. There's something strange going on here. You don't have to buy it. If you don't want to listen to me, fine. But please, try to hear her out. It's bad enough that Isabella goes off like this without telling anyone. I'm just worried something might happen to her if she keeps at it. Talk to her, okay?
As if she trusts me enough for that.
Doesn't the fact that she approached you first about this, instead of me, already say a lot?
A different kind of trust. Granted implicitly and never spoken. Sometimes too big, too fragile to last. He falls silent for a long moment as he turns it over in his mind. In the end, all he manages to offer is a small nod before he departs, and a promise to at least listen to her, without the teasing or the jibes. A favor for me, and the least he can do for her. This is as much as I can do for him as well, until I have understood what's happening myself. Tonight, hopefully, where this all started, will provide the answers I'm looking for. Except the whole thing's off to a bad start, and all of a sudden, whatever Isabella claims dwelling in this mansion becomes the least of my concerns. Severely underdressed is a total understatement to describe how I look. Cars worth more than my own apartment and childhood home combined line the mansion's front yard. Men and women decked out in their best also flock near the entrance. Most are eager for the festivities to start, while some are simply idling about, enjoying the warm afternoon sun before it sets. But once the woman standing at the front porch speaks, their undivided attention immediately shifts to her. Presumably Ms. Wright, from the confident manner she holds herself among present company. This, despite keeping a far simpler appearance than the rest of her own guests, or not having her husband beside her. A trait worthy of utmost admiration at best. At worst, she's the envy of every woman, the subject of every gossip in Luxburn.
Welcome everyone.
And Mum said we could have been good friends? I can't even picture myself mingling with the kind of guests she has. Though I admit she does seem familiar now that I've seen her this close. Memories of sitting in a vanity not mine, being dressed in clothes too fancy for my tastes. They flit briefly in my mind until a cheerful tone rises above the buzz of her enraptured audience again.
Please, make yourselves at home.
I wish I can share her enthusiasm, really. But being surrounded by all of this extravagance, for the lack of a better term, merely makes me dread how the rest of the night might go. Also knowing there might be some truth to what lies inside this place helps drive the unease further by a notch. Ashton, on the other hand,
Be careful with Shirley, alright?
for someone who abhors gatherings like this, he already seems right at home, standing with an air too lackadaisical as he watches the valet drive off with his bloody car.
Can't you at least act with a bit more shame?
Becca, if I find a single scratch on Shirley, there will be hell to pay.
Those guys know what they're doing. They're handling cars worth more than your precious Shirley.
My disdain has likely shown beyond the tone of my voice, quite possibly in the form of a grimace. He chuckles, a rare moment where mirth and amusement danced across his features. Try as I might to pull up a stern glare, I can't help but join him instead. There's something in the lightness of it, in how easy this kind of interaction falls into place when we don't let feelings get involved, in spite of being stuck in a situation we're not fond of. It brings back memories. However, the moment doesn't hold. All of a sudden, Ashton grows quiet.
Chief?
An odd expression flashes momentarily across his face, though he blinks it away before I can figure out exactly what it is.
Ashton, what's...
Sorry, Becca, I just saw someone I need to catch up with. Longtime friend.
It doesn't help that he isn't even making an effort to spare a glance my way when he answers. Instead, they're focused at some point in the crowd. His gaze darting between people walking past us until a small frown forms in his face.
Oh, wait, Ash, what about...
This won't be long. Be careful while I'm gone, okay?
I meet the smile he hastily throws my way with a frown of my own. What does he mean by that? But before I can ask, already he has turned his back from me and is walking away, without a single explanation whatsoever. In some desperate effort, I try to catch up to him, if only to know what warranted this sudden departure and his odd warning at the end.
Hey, be careful! About what exact...
Only for my attempts to be interrupted by a muffled ringing from my pocket. Mum's cheerful voice greets me as soon as I answer. Oh, she gets cell reception?
Yes, I'm at the party already, Mom. Yes, I'll say hi to her if I can.
The conversation itself doesn't last long. Just a simple hello, a reminder to enjoy the party, and to send their regards to their old student. But when the call ends and I get to look up, Ashton's already heading inside. With a sigh and admittedly a little disappointment, I tuck my mobile back into my pocket and follow after him.
So much for date.
Even with familiar company, this is somehow shaping up to be a terrible evening. My guess? You haven't seen the last of it. The party hits full swing an hour later. Oh, I forgot how beautiful this ballroom is. It's gorgeous. With the host's opening remarks given, still no sign of her husband, the poor woman, and the guests promptly fed, the band shifts the melody to a livelier tune. Soon, laughter and the rhythmic tapping of shoes fill the room, all in accordance to the lifting strains of music. It seems fun, I admit. Fascinating at certain moments, the flurry of dancers making the music their own, almost no care in the world. If I weren't so indisposed, I'd have joined the crowd for a song or two. There isn't a lack of invitations anyway. Plenty of them, in fact, with some asking more than once. It's only my stubborn refusal that prevents me from joining them. And I can. A single nod is all it'll take, and the evening would have been far more enjoyable for me. But pride and my own silly little hopes, the thought of being seen with one of them by him, curbs that, as much as I hate to admit it. It's a hard truth to swallow, especially when the very person at the center of it makes denial difficult. Can't even spare me a minute of his attention or a single glance at me the whole evening. Well, Zachary might have spoken more words to me. The big guy's busy covering the event to boot. But at least he manages to slip in a conversation or two between takes, or a small wave of his hand when he passes by. What's Ashton's excuse? He's been fitting in and out of sight the whole time. One moment he's hanging around a small group, and another he's hovering around the string band. Just a second ago, he's wolfed down some deviled eggs by the buffet table, a glass of wine in hand. The next thing I know, he's gone. If I didn't know any better, I'd say he only agreed to come with me for another reason. Yeah, that's exactly why he came.
I swear, the next person who asks, I'm dancing the night away with. Ashton can go fuck himself.
You would catch his eye a lot better if you wore nicer clothes, don't you think?
Ah, here we go. Her voice almost makes me jump, too focused on the gobshite wandering around the ballroom and my own annoyance to notice. If she's heard any of the profanities I've mumbled or taking notice of my discomfiture, she makes no comments on it, merely greeting me with a smile when I turn my attention to her. Ms. Hannah Wright gives off a whole different air when she's not speaking to an audience. Homely, a bit too friendly for my liking. But I guess that comes with being raised in such an environment and having to deal with pompous, snooty people. Though I suppose nothing's really changed from years ago. I remember her carrying herself in the same manner during the one and only visit. Does she remember any of it? I won't be surprised if she doesn't. It has taken me a while myself. She's probably met a lot of people like little Becky throughout the years. Might have already forgotten about me or my parents. People like her thrive on connections, after all. Nevertheless, I return her smile, awkward and stiff as it may be.
Didn't realize the housewarming was going to be this fancy. I would have gone with a nice dress if I knew.
Oh, you're fine, dearie. It's only really the parvenus, those who climb, that come to these parties all dolled up. Quite the black-haired beauty, isn't he?
It takes me a while to realize who she's talking about. I'm going to turn down this volume just a tad. Oh, that's better. Okay. Until Ashton walks by again, in closer proximity than any of the times he has done so far this evening. Still without a look of acknowledgement our way, though. Even if Ms. Wright speaks loud enough to catch the attention of anyone within earshot.
Who, Ash?
You know, you really shouldn't have turned down those offers. If I wasn't married, I'd happily go dancing with those young men. But you said a name. Ash. That's the exquisite lad you've been looking at all this time. I don't know him, and I'm the one hosting this party. That must mean you know each other. Is he your boyfriend then? Because that would explain those rejections.
This isn't the first time someone has made that assumption. Almost every student I've had in the past did. My coworkers more often than not assume he is. A few of my neighbors also think we're an item. Not that Ashton has ever reacted to those. He's been quite indifferent about it, in fact. Still, the heat of blush creeps up my cheeks, a denial ready, despite wanting it to happen so badly myself.
What? No, that's ridiculous. He isn't my boyfriend.
Such a violent reaction. A simple no would have sufficed. Many here would be happy to hear it.
And I haven't been looking at him.
I do my best to summon a straight face, but before her good cheer, it easily falters.
That's right. You've been staring. Quite heatedly, in fact. Although I'm not sure if you look like you want to kiss him or kill him.
It's more the latter currently.
Just don't go murdering him on my property. I don't want to walk into a room and suddenly find a body there.
It's infectious in a way. No sooner I find myself enjoying our chat more than I've imagined myself to. Although her attention briefly wavers at one point, she remains a good companion. Even more once I've mentioned who my parents are. Her face quickly lights up, and fondness graces her face, despite the meeting from several years ago being a short one. But of course, there are some things we really can't avoid talking about. After all, it's one of the few things I remember her asking me, the moment she spotted little Becky in the room. Do you have a boyfriend? In retrospect, it's an odd thing to talk about as children, when there are loads we could have started with.
Yes, oh, I remember you. You were the cutest little thing with glasses. And when we met, you were having boy troubles with this lad called something with an A.
I believe I still have the clue she gave me. Chosen, also I can impress him. And even back then, Ashton has always been denser than a rock, and that one attempt to get him to notice backfired spectacularly. Sure, he's keen. He's a detective, for heaven's sake. But feelings, more often than not, escape him.
What was it again? Aaron, Alan, Adele, Albert, Alexander, Andrew?
Which makes the whole talk all the more embarrassing. And the more names she lists off, the more my discomfort grows until my smile turns into a grimace. What will she think of me? Here she is, married, to a man she most probably loves at that, while I'm still stuck in the same place, yearning for the same person.
Ashton! Ash! That man is that boy! The same one. Oh, goodness me, after all these years! I can see why, though. He's quite dashing.
You don't really need to announce it to everyone within earshot, you know?
I'm so sorry, but it really is cute.
I love Hana, she's a good person. She says that, but for a short moment a hint of pity flickers in her eyes. I take that as a chance to change the subject before anything more can be said over the matter. I haven't even sorted these things out for myself.
This is a nice party, Miss Wright.
Though to be frank, I doubt she'll be so willing to pass this up. The topic has already captured her attention.
Please, Hana is fine. We're friends of a sort, aren't we? We must be friends, seeing as I know about your little infatuation, Becky. Don't you worry, dearie. You'll have your happy ending yet.
Good night, everybody.
I'm not too concerned about that, am I? That's not what I'm looking for.
Oh? And what makes you think that? Doesn't everybody want their happy ending?
Mwah. Good night, everybody.
The idea of happy endings sounds like they're just for fairy tales. And they are, sorta. I don't think you can just sit around, trapped in some tower and hope for the best. If you love them, you have to fight for it, right? You're not just going to sit there and hope that everything will just fix itself on its own. Like everything, you have to work at it.
Hypocrisy. That's what this is. How dare I preach about something when it's exactly what I've been doing? And then, I go and act as if I'm entitled to any of it. That, by virtue of us growing up together, he must return whatever I feel for him. That he's not allowed to look at another because I'm the one who has stayed by his side the longest. When, in the first place, Ashton has always been his own person. This is something I cannot force on him. I can only hold on to these, take care of it until the time comes I can confess it to him. Great if he reciprocates, but if he can't, if he won't, selfish. I've been too selfish.
But what do I know?
I'm sure the daughter of the two greatest professors I've ever known is smart enough to know what she's talking about.
At one point, maybe I would have easily agreed to that. However, the past weeks have also seen changes in the ways I view things. As nice as these things sound, it turns out whatever I previously know may not even be true from other people or for myself. It is sobering and almost funny how things I might have said with much certainty before now has doubts muddying each of them. But there will be time to mull about these later, because when a hush suddenly descends to the room, a whole different issue rears. Especially when Luke, freaking Luke, strides into the now quiet ballroom, fashionably late and oozing with the same pompous mien he's always carrying around with him.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Enjoying the party? I hope I'm not too late in welcoming you all to the Wright Mansion.
Before long, Hana leaves my side to join him, and it doesn't take a genius to piece it all together.
Welcome one and all to our humble abode. Tonight, if you have yet to find yourself in your roles, you are our ladies and lords of the court of your king and queen, if you would excuse my presumptuousness. So, enjoy the feast that has been laid out for your senses as we only allowed the best to be served. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone!
His attitude, the manner he carries himself around people, his unfamiliarity with that part of the city. Of freaking course! I should have known! Although, I'm partly at fault here. Tabloids and the gossip columns have never been really my thing. I should have also expected that wherever Luke freaking Wright is, some sort of drama will sure follow. He seems the kind of person who revels in it, figures it'll find him on its own, even when he's not asking for it. It happens amidst a round of applause and hoots that people lagging behind the crowd they've gathered does not catch on until the cheers turn into several scandalized gasps.
I am pregnant with your little bastard. You promised me you'll take responsibility. God damn it, Luke. I finally got you to talk to me after months of silence, and you do this to me.
What do you mean you're pregnant with? Luke, is this true?
Lies and slander, woman! Security! Johans, take her out of here before she makes an even bigger fool of herself!
No, you do not do this to me. I was so ready to leave my stupid oaf of a husband. I told you to leave that damn wife of yours. Look at her. Does she look like she wants a baby? Does she look like she could take care of a baby?
PSA, don't drink while pregnant. Like, just flat out don't. Like, just never. Don't. Please do not. Ever. And not just because of scenes like this, like, just... Come on. That's my reason. Because, come on. The commotion doesn't go further, despite the drunk woman appearing like she has plenty more venom to spill. In a little while, security shows up, escorting her out. Apparently, she's the chief inspector's wife, too. As if this whole thing can't get any more screwed up than it already is. What a mess. But the damage has been done, and beyond the repercussions this will bring, I'm more worried about Hana. Maybe Luke, too, in part. I've seen the man that hides behind his self-importance, and it is someone who cares for the person who stands beside him. No matter how questionable that is now. After all, no anger is worse than that of a scorned woman. And Hana... Well, as refined and well-mannered as she is in front of her guests, I'm not sure she'll be all too willing to tolerate this. Her party, her home, her husband, and that woman has just dared to walk over it. Yet when I glance at her, there's only defeat, a wary slump of her shoulders, and a certain depth to her breathing. Like the fight has already been drained out of her long ago. I don't know since when this has been going on. I don't know either of them well to judge for myself. I'm simply an outsider who happens to have some kind of connection with both of them. But the error of a person who wishes for respite, it's all too easy to see it in her, as she quietly watches the commotion carry on around her. In a moment, before I can think it through, I'm pulling her to the side and waving Zachary over to us.
Becca, this is a real oh, hey, Miss Wright.
Hello, Zachary. I told you to call me Hana. Did I not?
Her hair is pretty. I just realized. I'm so stupid and blind. I mean, we've played as her and we've seen her, but her hair is actually really pretty, isn't it?
Yeah, you did.
Admittedly, this air of familiarity between them catches me off guard. I won't put it past Hana. Her standing in society compels her to keep appearances. The be nice to everyone sort of thing. While Zachary's growing client base sometimes calls for rubbing elbows with the rich and famous. Although, from the way it appears, this one seems to go beyond maintaining a facade or work. I wonder how this friendship came to be. I'd ask, but we're starting to attract some curious eyes. Most of them are probably searching for more gossip, something to add fuel to the fire. Thankfully, there's no need to explain it to Zachary. He's aware of the situation all too well.
So, this is what you called me for? we gonna get Hana out of here?
That'd be great.
Soon, he's leading the three of us out of the ballroom. Anyone who dare speak or approach on our way out, I shut down with a sharp glare. In a few steps, we're out, away from the commotion and the suffocating tension. I don't stay long with them, though. Even if I want to, Ashton's still somewhere in that crowd. I've got to go back for him, at least. No matter how much the idea of that alone sends an unpleasant twinge in my stomach.
Hey, I gotta go back in there. Completely forgot my bag like an airhead, and I'll see if I can tag Ash on the way out. You'll be fine here, right, Hannah?
Not to worry, dearie. I'll just be right here.
Zach will be with you if you need anything.
Besides, it seems Zachary can handle this without another person helping out. In fact, for some reason, I've got the strange impression I might be intruding on something if I elect to remain. Better to entrust this with someone she's comfortable with. And though it might be a little inappropriate considering what has transpired, a smile worms its way to my lips as I leave. Good on them, I suppose. Chatter has exploded throughout the whole ballroom once I return. Worried murmurs, clicking of tongues, and inappropriate gossip filters through the thick tension in the room. Most of them haven't even left the premises and they're already talking about it. Tomorrow it'll be on the news for sure, in every local broadsheet and tabloid in Lexburn. No wonder Luke's knee-deep into damage control. With the scandalous woman gone, he has turned his attention on the media covering the event. Though, so far, he isn't faring well in the cleanup department.
Now, people, we all know the drill. I'm sure you're all itching to get a start on those articles.
Good thing Zachary isn't here. I can't imagine a man of his temperament dealing with someone like him.
But if I read one word, see one picture about this come morning, even a single shot of the bloody wine glass the harlot held, you will all lose more than your jobs.
Luke's diatribe goes on for another few minutes, after which he excuses himself out of the area. There's a brief lull, a reluctant pause, before the place comes astir again, but shortly the buzz returns. Dancers have once again taken to the floor, and their guests' excited talk begins anew. But I couldn't care less about any of this now. Simply standing in the middle of it already gives me a headache. When the shock has faded, I just feel bone tired. I've accomplished nothing of what I've come here for, and apparently Ashton's disappeared sometime during the commotion. I'm not sure what pisses me off more, that he ignored me the whole evening and might have just left without saying anything, or knowing he obviously has some other motive for being here. Can't he at least trust his own friends for that?
You didn't have to lie to me.
It's the last straw. No longer in the mood, I grab my bag and head out, more than ready to end the disastrous night as early as possible. As it turns out, the night isn't done with me yet. Because no sooner as the porter closed the door behind me, I find myself standing alone in the foyer with one idiot face. Luke Wright. No sign of Hana or Zachary. Just him and the agitated clicks his shoes make while he treads around the empty room. Away from the media's prying eyes and their guests' judging stares, it's easy to glean how much this scandal has him shaken. Not to the point where he has utterly lost his composure. He appears to have mastered himself enough not to. But an ample opening is there for a nervous edge to show on the lines of his shoulders.
What do you know?
The man is not as tough as he makes himself out to be. Sure, I've seen this before, briefly in that 1 second in the hallway at school. It's a strange matter, however, to witness this out in the open. Behind closed doors, this is the real Luke Wright. Though maybe that's because he hasn't noticed my presence yet, busy as he is with his thinking. If he's aware, I doubt he'll be acting like this. His pride is one thing he'll always wear with him. Even now, when I place a gentle hand on his shoulders and he whirls around to face me, there's a second-long moment of anger flashing across his features before it dissolves into confusion. He tucks it away as quickly as he can, but it does nothing to change the impression I've built of the man in my head.
Daisy, must you be everywhere?
We've only met 3 times, Luke. Quit the dramatics. Besides, shouldn't you be aware of who gets invited to your party?
If I was, there wouldn't be any of that scene tonight. That munter wouldn't even get an inch within this property. I'd banner off Luxborn if I could.
He genuinely sounded threatening there. That was actually kind of awesome. He probably pawns everything off to their servants and Hana. Pompous, elitist, douche.
Did you just come out here to lecture me about it? Because, Daisy, I can already feel one coming tomorrow. I don't need to hear one from you tonight.
You are a very unpleasant man.
So I've been told. Will that be all? If so, I suggest you go back and join every bloody goss in that room.
Not everything. As unpleasant and frustrating talking with this man is, he deserves the benefit of the doubt at least. The questions and criticisms aren't lacking, of course. But right this instant, there's only one that comes to mind.
Is there some truth to it then?
To his credit, he does appear extremely offended and repulsed by the notion. His mortified expression alone answers the question, but I want to hear it from him, even if he takes nothing short of a derisive tone just to answer that.
Daisy. Oh, Daisy. If you believed every scandal that came along, I'd have 100 children already. Do me a favor and give me a break. I get enough of this false shite from the tabloids.
Well, I'm sorry for asking. I just wanted to hear it from you, douche.
And now that you've heard it, does it change anything? Are we going to start seeing miracles now? A solution to poverty? Pigs flying in the sky?
Is some friendly concern such a hard thing to comprehend for you?
He pauses at that. Suddenly, he doesn't know what to do with his hands, and in the end, he simply stuffs them back into his pockets and sulks. I'm not too shocked if it has caught him off guard. There probably aren't many people who tell him that. He's a difficult man to get along with. Zachary probably won't want to be anywhere near him, despite the man having the patience of a saint. Ashton he can tolerate, maybe, though I highly doubt he can keep it up with Luke. Dealing with him requires more than patience. It's a huge mystery why I still bother. When the awkwardness passes, mostly coming from him, he merely glances away.
Maybe. I don't need your stupid friendship.
Good heavens! I really want to ask how Hana's able to deal with you.
He's interested. I can tell from the frown he shoots my way. He's likely wondering how I've ended up knowing her. I'd humor him any other day, probably tease him about it and keep him guessing just to annoy him if I'm in the mood. But my own patience is nearing its ends. After Ashton, after the whole fiasco here, and now him. He won't even answer my questions properly. Why should I answer his? Moreover, there are other matters more important than that. His marital problems, first and foremost, his attitude follows right after. Concerns aside, I can't help with those. Those are things only he can fix, and it's definitely not by standing around here. So with a slight wave of my hand, I end it right there and walk away from him. Although I can't resist the urge to glance back before I leave, if only to have one last look at the man he really is. But the instant I turn my gaze on him, I see it. Looming, hovering over his shoulders, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. Like the first time I've stepped inside this place in search of Isabella. He was there too, wasn't he? That man, along with his wife and another person, Miss McCulloch? And that shadow. No, a woman now. Her. No longer a dark blur. Terror rushes through every vein in my body. A crippling sensation gripping every part of me while she stares at me with a glare filled with nothing but hate and venom. It's like staring at the eyes of a woman I've unknowingly robbed of something precious. I try to say something, a warning, but before I can gather my wits and voice it out, someone shuts the door behind me, as if to keep outsiders away from the secrets this mansion possesses. The brush of fresh air against my cheeks does little to dampen the chill in my bones. By now, the sensation, the fear and disquiet it leaves whenever I see her is familiar enough for me. Already it has made a home in my nerves. I don't even notice my trembling hands until I cross my arms across my chest. The cold from the tips of my fingers seeps through the thick material of my shirt. Neither of it helps bring together some semblance of coherent thought in my head. But I know I should.
Someone has to tell that douche.
I start walking back before fear can cripple me again. It's not wise. Returning, that is, especially after what happened. But Hana's still an old friend. And Luke doesn't deserve whatever misfortune that letter might bring. I can't just leave those two in there. Isabella's right. She's real. And there's something she wants from everyone who has read that.
Becca, where'd you go off to? If we're done here, let's go.
My mistake, the second his voice cuts through the crisp night air, is that I've allowed my annoyance to get the better of me. Fuming, purpose forgotten, I whirl around and march towards him. One accusation after another piles up at the tip of my tongue, ready to be hurled at any moment. There's no hesitation holding me back when I fling it at him. That straight face he keeps as I do so doesn't temper my anger either. It only makes me want to slap more sense into him.
Shouldn't I be the one asking you that?
Becca, I've been waiting here the whole time since that mess in the hall. I told you I hate parties like...
And before that, where have you been the entire evening?
Right then and there, I might have forgiven him if he's shown some ounce of remorse for leaving me like that. Maybe he could have looked away, given me a sign that my assumptions might be right. He doesn't even need to put them into words. A single gesture of confirmation is all I need. Rather, what I get is the same impassive look. He does that whenever he can't disclose anything. He does that whenever he's lying. In the face of it, amidst the thick tension, a frustrated huff is the only thing I can summon.
Be that way. Fine. Suit yourself.
No more words. After everything I've seen and heard tonight, I'm already too exhausted for those. So without speaking any further, I simply walk past him and stomp over his car. Although before I can pull open the door, he calls out, one hand outstretched, a gentle weight on my shoulders.
Wait, Becca.
He pauses, his brow furrowing and lips curving into a slight frown. I can almost see the gears turning in his head while he tries to piece together everything he wants to say. Before, perhaps, I might have waited patiently for those. He's not a man fond of using words to express himself. More often than not, any gesture of honesty will only come out blunt and coarse when forced. But today, for one reason or another, I simply can't summon that forbearance.
Ashton, if you're just going to waste my time again...
Becca, listen. I don't know how else...
That much is obvious. Why don't you just take the whole bloody night? Go on. I can wait until next year. Better yet, why don't you just keep it all to yourself like you always do? It's not like...
Rebecca, will you hear me out first?
The silence I can offer him, but whether I'll believe what he's about to say is still up for debate. A very long debate.
I honestly don't know how else to put this. I'm aware your parents have some kind of history with Hana Wright, and somehow you're friends with her. But you should stay away from these people for now, especially the husband.
Who? Luke?
His expression deepens into a scowl at my mention of the name, but whatever opinion he has, he doesn't immediately voice. Still, something about it has greatly displeased him, evident in the stiff note his tone assumes.
Yeah, he's bad news.
It's my turn to frown this time. What does he mean by that?
Care to explain your reasons?
I've not meant for it to sound as harsh as it does, but anger and frustration have never been a good match in me, particularly on nights like this. It's not surprising when Ashton jerks back as if I've struck him. For a fleeting moment, something akin to hurt darts across his features, his eyes narrowing and his hands closing in tightly into a fist at his sides. Then swiftly he glances away and shifts his focus on the line of trees nearby, like an answer can be gleaned from the dark expanse.
I'm really sorry, Becca.
What is it for? For the party? The vague answers he continues to give? Does it include all the times before this? The year's worth of it? I don't doubt its sincerity. However, at the moment, the forgiveness he's asking isn't something I'm all too willing to hand, furious as I am. It's frankly a wonder how I can keep myself from raising my voice at him.
We'll talk about this tomorrow. And you better have a proper answer for me by then.
There's a brief hesitation before I step away. A short moment of wanting to say more, of waiting if he has anything to add. He's only silent, eyes still trained at a distance. It is the last glimpse I see of him before I climb inside his car. If the door slams close with the same force as the anger I'm holding, its sound merely vanishes into the night, unnoticed. He follows soon after, and shortly we're on our way back to the city. Yet, even with the city's bright lights welcoming us, the dense, somber air from the mansion still lingers. The moon is almost at its highest by the time we reach Salemwell. Even after our respective heads have cooled off, the atmosphere within the car remains rife with unspoken tension. This isn't a problem so easily fixed with a few handshakes. Quite frankly, I don't know what will. Ashton himself has no idea what to do when he alights and dawdles awkwardly in the middle of the car park, unsure. It almost seems like he's having an internal debate, whether he should say goodbye or mutter another apology. I could have driven him away purely out of spite the second I've gotten off. Still, old habits die hard. It's late and Ashton's flat's on the other side of the city. Irritation might still rear its head every time I look at him right now, but I'm not too cruel to put him up on another long drive. Especially when he still appears as if he hasn't gotten any rest.
You can borrow the couch.
I throw the keys to my flat his way before a protest forms on his lips. Although he catches it with ease, he eyes it with a wary expression and shoots a puzzled glance my way.
You haven't been forgiven. We're still going to have that talk, believe me. But I'm not about to send you out on another drive looking like that. It's late. Go get some rest.
We're setting aside a lot of loose ends like this, but he appears to have accepted that reason, at least in the meantime. He does give me another questioning glance when I shove past him, pulling my mobile in the process.
Where are you going? I thought...
You go ahead upstairs. I need to contact Professor Andrew.
Andrew? Why would you... Oh, no. Please. Is this that thing Isabella said this morning? Again? I already gave her my word, Becca. I'll look into this BRC crap. No need to drag the old guy into it.
Of course he's still skeptical. It makes one wonder if he's even seeing anything at all. Figures this curse will stay away from the scoffer. But this is another loose end tonight that I just can't leave alone, Ashton's beliefs notwithstanding. It just so happens that it's one I can delve into using means other than taking a look at the mansion itself.
Ashton, do you really think I still give a shite after that stunt you pulled tonight?
No, but this is...
I've spent so many years with him to know this is about to turn into another argument. Before he can finish it, I cut him off with a firm raise of my hand.
Look, I don't care. There are weird things happening around here. And yes, it's Isabella's brand of weird. Ghostly voices, strange sounds, and a bloody woman sitting at the back of my car. You don't have to believe me. And I no longer have the patience to convince you, so just leave me be, Ashton.
He doesn't push it, growing quiet instead, although I know he has a whole case of it prepared inside his head. But there's a reluctant shift in his movement when he steps away from our conversation. Short of climbing the stairs, he stops, turns to face me with an expression almost too conflicted.
Are you really sure
What?
that there was something? That you've been, seeing things?
Yes, I'm very, very certain. Now go! And you better not break anything in there. The last time I let you stay over, it was that statuette Belle gave me. You haven't even replaced that one.
The last of my reprimand goes both unheard and unanswered as he disappears behind the stairs. If things aren't as strained, he might have a quip or two about that, followed by a light banter. Instead, for a long moment, I am left staring after him. There's something in the way he asked it that nags. Coupled with his expression, the whole exchange just feels unsettling. One that doesn't fade even as I gather my thoughts and shift my focus on another, even as I dial Professor Andrew's number. And that is when it clicks. During the long wait for the professor, one stray thought emerges from the unease. Ashton was not intended for his question to be a jibe. It's concern. For what, though? For my well-being? The letter's curse? The woman I mentioned? The answers for those will have to wait, however. Finally, the call connects, and Professor Andrew's voice echoes from the receiver.
Professor Andrew?
Rebecca? It's late. What can I do for you?
I know, I'm sorry, but this is a bit urgent.
After all, this is a more pressing matter. Our lives might be at stake, and we're still in the dark.
Actually, I was wondering if I could ask you to do me a favor.
Professor Andrew Clark has agreed to meet with me 2 days later in front of Luxborn's public library. He has other commitments, but being a longtime family friend has its perks. I have my parents' connections to thank for that. Of course, I'm not the sort to impose on him often, but the situation is, well, it's not entirely bad, although it does require calling in a few favors from friends like him. Without his signature, I won't be able to gain access to the library's restricted section. If I want to get a more in-depth information on the Ermengarde mansion, that is. Not simply what they choose to show to the general public. As much as I hate to admit it, there's always something people censor, and whatever it is, I won't ever find it in the general section. It has to be what they're keeping here, beyond the public eye. The thought of that alone makes me antsy. Thankfully, I don't have to brood over it. The wait for the professor doesn't last long. He never did enjoy making people wait. Likewise, he dislikes people who are tardy. He arrives 5 minutes after I do, greeting me with a kind smile and casual wave of his hand. I haven't seen him in so long, but it appears he hasn't changed much. His familiar presence alone is enough for a fond smile to spread across my face.
Professor Andrew.
Rebecca, didn't I say long ago you can drop the professor?
You know I can't possibly do that. Even if I can, it feels disrespectful to call you by your name alone.
Both you and Ashton never listen to this old man. Kids these days.
All right, but just for today, since you're doing me a huge favor, Andrew.
I guess you simply can't have it all, even at this old age. But pleasantries aren't what we're here for, yes? You mentioned you needed a permit.
Yes, sir, if that's okay with you.
More than fine. Anything in pursuit of knowledge, as they say.
He hands me the permit without further prompting. And just like he promised, he's also written a recommendation after his signature. This is more than enough to get me to those files. I mutter a small thanks before slipping it into my pocket. Although when I look back up, his brows are furrowed, the very face of curiosity. Not surprising considering how vague I've been during our little talk over the phone. Right then and there, I decided to tell him if he ever asks. Maybe not all of it, but stuff he needs to know. It's the least I can do to thank him. As expected, true to his inquisitive nature, he asks.
If you don't mind, though, I know you've always been an eager learner, but may I know what in the restricted section that piqued your curiosity?
It's the Ermengarde mansion, sir.
He's quick to raise an eyebrow at that, and for a while I fear he'll take the slip of paper back. Is there something in what I said?
The ones they have out in the general isn't enough?
I'm, hoping for a more in-depth read, sir. More about the history and the people who once lived there. The general section doesn't have anything much on that.
Oh, I see. Well, you certainly aren't the first one to be enamored with that place. It doesn't shock me. The architecture is admirable, and the urban legends are something to talk about. Why, just this past week, I've got a few asking me about that. Imagine that.
I think enamored might be a little too much to describe our interest in it. But I have to agree. The mansion is beautiful, even with the renovations. They kept the stained glass windows, too. They are magnificent.
Oh, you've seen it.
I was there for a few hours to attend a housewarming party. The invitation was for my parents, but they couldn't make it. My mum used to work as a private tutor for the Evans. Hannah Wright?
Ah, I know of her. Her husband, too. Who doesn't? Luxborn's most popular couple.
Something falls behind his eyes, the warmth in them suddenly gone, like he's reliving a painful, distant memory and seeing it play right in front of him. It disappears almost as soon as it surfaces, but that look has unsettled something in me.
Is something the matter?
Nothing much. But you know, you're already like a daughter to me. So if you could, do be careful with the friends you make.
Is this about the rights, sir?
Just a friendly advice from an old man. Don't think much about it. Anyway, I have to leave now. Can't miss my weekly serving of bear claws. Say hi to your parents at the detective inspector for me, will you? I wish you luck with all that research.
I will. Thanks for this, Andrew.
I don't know if we've seen this photo of this particular portrait of Rebecca yet. This big open mouth smile. She looks happy. Andrew gives me my shoulder a light squeeze, the gesture a younger me has always appreciated, and quickly crosses the street after. I watch him until he disappears behind the door to a cafe, until the doubt swimming inside my head finds a moment to rest. Whatever his business is with the rights isn't anything I should concern myself about. But somehow, in the grand scheme of things now, all of it feels oddly relevant. The how, though, I've yet to find out. And I'm hoping the library will give me the answers I want this time. On a gloomy Sunday morning, the library is especially empty. You know, libraries are all closed on Sundays here. The second floor in particular. I've always considered this place to be a sanctuary, a respite away from the hubbub of the city. As a child, I grew up reading books here, spending hours here to no end, poring over the pages, living out fantasies in my head until my parents called me home. Now it feels nothing like it. The silence is smothering, suffocating. Even with how clean they've kept the microfiche room, how the entire small of it lacks a speck of dust or clutter, breathing is a struggle for air. Not far into my stay, I begin to long for the noise outside, and perhaps as a way to calm this unease, I start to hum a tune. Imagine that. Why, of all things, it has to be that silly nursery rhyme, not even an Eekling? It's because Kylie sang it. It does its job, however. It fills the lull with something far less awkward, far less deafening, and that is enough for a distraction. I have business here. No time for silly daydreams, only important work to attend to. Even if there's a possibility of it being fruitless by some means, it feels like I have to do it. If not for me, then for the people who have been affected by this, what do we even call this? A haunting? A Halloween prank gone wrong? A curse? If Isabella were here, what would she say? Will she panic? Will she be angry I only listen to her now? It all stems from that one moment in the movie house, doesn't it? We could have avoided this had we only taken her warnings to heart. One stupid mistake is all it took to send our normal lives on a downward spiral. Frankly, I'm no longer sure if I'm angry at myself for it, or at the universe for throwing us into this mess. But we can only make do of what little we have, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Going here might not be the right decision, but it's a start.
A good start.
It doesn't take much time for me to find what I need. A microfiche of old newspapers, long kept in special storage cabinets at the far end of the restricted section. The year is 1620s and beyond. Before the city of Luxborn even exists in the records, when the mansion had just been built, and Anslem is nothing more but a small, sleepy hamlet near a river. A lot of pieces are missing. Days, sometimes several consecutive weeks without any records remaining. Often it goes on for years. Troublesome, but as it is, I'm lucky enough to find anything at all considering how far I'm looking back. Can't be picky now. Can't waste time mulling over what record keepers of the old could have done to make this a breeze for me.
I can still work with this.
The faint whir of the microfiche machine keeps me company as I go over each slide, each image, hoping for something that goes beyond what the local lore knows. There are snippets, little mentions of the family that once settled in the house here and there. The usual singing of praises for the couple who helped brought out what was once a tiny settlement into a buzzing town. Nothing substantial, nothing I didn't know before. It continues on like this for a good while, until I come by the years after their deaths. The people of Anslem might have loved Lord William and Lady Elizabeth Ermengarde, mourned their passing and held them in high esteem in the years after. But it was their daughter that was remembered fondly by the townspeople. If her parents built this town, Lady Charlotte was the one who made it prosper. Remarkable considering it was from a period of recovery from a bout of plague that killed half the town's population, including her parents. What's surprising, though, apparently her time also marked more superficial changes to the place. She moved things, changed laws, altered old customs and traditions. If they were done on a woman's whimsy, it doesn't say, but she seems capable enough for more than that. The gist of it is, the town she rebuilt, it was what eventually grew to become Luxborn City, while the nearby Anslem village remained as it was, a relic of the old. A frown swiftly forms in my face.
So, why is there a need to hide this?
One by one, I try to recall every lesson I've gone through, every book, paper, and journal I've read. None of them ever mention this. It's always the lord and lady of the house. Their endearing child, always an afterthought to those anecdotes. The one who always took her life in the end. Never someone who restored a town from the brink of collapse or brought new ideas to it. Is it because she's a woman?
That pisses me off.
Granted, not everything is sunshine and rainbows. Not all aspects of her can be considered admirable. But this is history. Some parts are bound to naturally delve into unpleasant territory, whether I like it or not. Witch hunts, for example, became common near the end of her life. Which would have been completely unremarkable, and might have gone to become a mere footnote in history if it didn't involve Lady Charlotte and the very slaves she saved. It caused quite a stir, enough to leave almost a week's worth of clippings. The girl was eventually burned, condemned by an entire town. At the word of Lady Charlotte alone. But this doesn't really have anything to do with this curse, does it? Unless that woman following us and this slave are the same person. A tale of revenge? How cliché. However, with the lack of accurate photographs, it's impossible to tell. Maybe if I squint, the illustration will start resembling her? But in my field, it doesn't work that way. It shouldn't work that way. I'll be the laughingstock of the community.
This isn't going anywhere.
Mentally exhausted, I take a careful step away from the screen, pressing a palm to my tired eyes. The lack of ample light in this area doesn't help. A headache already threatens to form at the back of my head, yet I'm nowhere near figuring things out. This is simply too much to take in all at once.
I should have asked for someone's help.
Now I'm at a dead end. I start gathering everything around me and placing them back in their respective envelopes for storage. The motion's no longer new after volunteering here a number of times. I didn't make much mess anyway, considering the lack of materials available to begin with. I'll have to look somewhere else. The where remains unknown, though. But just as I'm about to slip the last of the slides in, something catches my attention. My hand pauses, the microfiche halfway through its protective sleeve. This is one of the few I've set aside without taking a careful look at. It seems like a gossip column at first glance, but upon closer look, I slide it back to the reader, gently turning the dials in search of the page. It takes some time, but once the image becomes clear, they must have had this drawing commissioned for this announcement. I don't doubt it. The details are far more intricate, their likeness likely closer to how they might have appeared at the time. They're both recognizable this way, closer to those paintings I've seen in the mansion. However, it's the man standing beside her, Edward Godfrey, according to the article, that caught my attention previously. Here's her first cousin and eventually her fiancé. Maybe it's the posture, the manner in which he holds himself, or maybe it's the shape of his eyes, though I can't be too certain about that until I've gotten a better reference. Nevertheless, there is a resemblance. He looks eerily like... My head snaps up, glowering at whoever's running in the floor above. Any day I'd march upstairs and reprimand whoever it is.
This is a library, for heaven's sake.
But now isn't the time. I've gotten what I need. Without wasting another minute, I hit the machine's print button for a copy of the page, while my other hand moves to put everything back into storage. A ragged exhale slips from me. Relief, perhaps? Or maybe this is already exhaustion. Regardless, soon I'm closing my eyes as I wait for the printer to finish, if only to stave off a headache building up from everything. Sometime, I've even begun humming the same song again for comfort. Despite my doubts about this, despite all the tensions in my shoulders, this may be a small find, but at least I can start somewhere. We can start somewhere. There's always a way out of this. I know it. The printer sputters to a halt. However, its sound isn't what makes me snap my eyes open. A feeling. A chilly brush of air behind my back. Brief enough for something sickening to suddenly lodge itself in my throat while I take in my surroundings. It's that suffocating sensation again. Creeping to every part of me, crawling under my skin. Draining me little by little of any strength. From that day in the mansion. From that brief moment at the school. Without delay, I grab the papers and make a quick beeline for the door. My whole body freezes. I hold my breath, not daring to make any noise. For a little while, only the sound of papers crumpling under my grasp fills the room. The excitement from earlier gone instantly. Replaced by cold, seeping dread spreading throughout my limbs. But more than fear is the anger. It pains me to hear her use my own student's voice against me, and more than once I believed it was really her. She has no right.
Why don't you play with me?
Although she hasn't made a move, if there isn't a wall behind me, I'd probably take a step back. Anything to put distance between us, no matter how small, as long as I'm out of her reach. But I steel myself. Because if I do fall back, turn away from her, I'll be left with no way out. I am not dying here.
You think you scare me?
Miss Pink, don't be so rude. I'm waiting.
I'm not afraid of you, you spook. This is one Scotswoman. You aren't getting into an early grave without a fight.
Wow.
Come at me.
I expected she'll lunge, prove to me what a monster she is. Instead, all she gives me is a smile, twisted and gnarled. It's as if time has crawled to a stop at the side of it. A split-second decision, and before I know it, my body shifts. Eyes closing in anticipation, hand grabbing whatever's solid enough on the nearby table and hurling it at her. I don't bother looking if whatever I threw hit its mark. I run, as fast as my legs can carry me, despite my heart threatening to burst out of my chest. But in the maze of bookshelves with the whole place almost void of people, is there even a safe place enough I can escape to? There are people upstairs, aren't there? The weekend staff or some volunteer. There should be. Even if it's a Sunday and I'm the only one here on a special permit, there should be at least one other person manning this place. I heard them a while ago. Of course, I couldn't possibly tell them about this. They wouldn't believe me in the same manner we didn't buy Isabella stories until it's too late. But I can easily come up with excuses. For now, what's important is I don't end up trapped and alone with her.
Safety in numbers, as they say.
There's no hesitation in my steps as I race upstairs, ears straining for any signs or sounds of the woman appearing, jumping at me again at any second. I can still hear her behind me, the grinding of bones, her whispers as she keeps calling me back. Although it's at a distance, I don't slow my pace, library rules be damned. Because no matter how much I pretend to be brave, the level-headed one, or the tough one, this terrifies me. This scares me more than anything. This isn't how I plan to die. But when I get to the 3rd floor, only silence welcomes me, and an emptiness that stretches out far too wide, spanning the entirety of the floor for it to be reassuring. And just behind me, somewhere at the foot of the stairs, panic rises at my throat. No other way now but up. So I bolt, desperation kicking in without warning. I take 2 steps at a time, tripping clumsily over some of it in my last-ditch effort to escape. But I know. At the back of my mind, I know all of this is futile. With every footfall, with every ragged breath, with every pounding of my heart, it gets hammered to my mind. And it only becomes clear to me once the door at the end opens, revealing the vast expanse of Luxborn's early morning skyline, and with her treading at my heels, blocking my only way out.
Stay away from me!
A useless plea. Does she even understand a word I say? Can she even? Is she still human in the first place? Somehow I doubt it. Because no human being will ever do this. Simply imagining what she's capable of doing to us. I never want to give her that chance.
I'm telling you to back off!
Her gait is slow as she walks forward. Each stride accompanied by the sound of breaking bones, of blood oozing from wounds that never found healing. And with every inch she draws nearer, even as I pull away to take back what little distance I can between us, the smile on her merely grows wider. A mocking gesture. For me, she may be less of a human now, but I'm pretty sure she's fully aware she's got me cornered. She wouldn't even bother making it here if she isn't. But I can't look away. I can't bring myself to, even as the heel of my shoe eventually hits the edge. Yet, end of the line. Trapped. Alone. So, this is how it ends, huh? Quietly and without fanfare, surrounded not by a warm breeze but by a chilly morning air. No soft footfalls on an empty hallway, but the din of an morning traffic below. No warm afternoon light. Nothing but the cold, pungent smell of death, all underneath a dreary morning sky. How fitting. Yet, amidst all of it, there's a single voice I want to hear, if only for the last time.
Becca?
Hey, did I wake you up?
No, I left you a voicemail, so I thought, where are you?
The one I grew up with, who always got grades better than I did without even trying, whose silly antics I have to put up with all these years, who stood by me even when things got tougher. That one person who's been constant in my life.
Ash, do you remember that one time?
What?
Back in secondary. We joined a contest back then, didn't we? We had to dress you up as a girl and...
No.
What? You looked really pretty. I think I still have that picture somewhere.
Burn it. We're not
not talking about that again. You promised. Seriously, what brought this on?
Nothing. It's just the first thing I remembered.
So weird. Despite everything, my lips curl up into a smile. Faint, a sad little thing on its own given the situation. Because even at the very end, I know I have this. The casual talk, the friendly banter, talking like how we always would as children. If only I haven't been too selfish. If only I haven't taken any of this for granted in favor of my feelings. Then perhaps I won't be regretting anything now.
You're being weird today, Becca. Whatever. Listen, I need you to go home right away. I'm at Salem Well right now and...
I wish time would simply stop for us. There are still a lot of things I want to say. Things I never bothered saying out loud. Things I should have said a long time ago to someone who has always been by my side. But in this moment, there's only one.
Thanks, Ash.
Achievement unlocked, one thing's constant.
Hold on, did I do something?
For everything.
Rebecca, what?
I'm so glad to have known you.
Wait, what are you? God damn it, Rebecca, where are you?
A soft click. And I'm closing my eyes. There's a rush of air. The sound of the world dimming around me. Like a song coming to its inevitable end.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady.
You've unlocked a memory fragment. Holy crap, what is this? Well, that's the end of Ashton, or that's the end of Becca's section. Now we are going to be playing as Ashton next week. So that was day 12 of the letter. Physically available now on Nintendo Switch over at PlayAsia. We do not have many limited editions left, so make sure to order one while you can, because once they're gone forever. I'll be back Tuesday to play something else, and hopefully next Sunday to continue my playthrough of this game. That'll bring today's stream to an end. Hope everyone enjoyed the stream. On behalf of East Asia Soft, I have been Skull. Have yourselves a great day and a great week, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.